Josh, thank you so much for joining me on the Market Authority show. How are you doing today?
Hey, doing amazing, doing awesome. I'm so stoked and honored to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
The pleasure is all mine. So for those who aren't super familiar with you and your story just yet, would you walk us through just a little bit about where you're at today and how you got there?
Yeah, so I jumped in the real estate industry as a realtor back in 2005. It's been a wild journey, wild ride, but here we are, getting ready to go into 2021, and still in the game. I'm a realtor and a team leader here in Phoenix, Arizona, amongst some other businesses and stuff that I've gotten involved with. But again, jumped into business 2005, and to be honest with you, I never thought this would be a long-term gig for me. I was 20 years old. I grew up in club business. My dad owned and operated real health clubs for 30 years, which was an amazing foundation for this industry. And started working from him at the age of 11, started getting into sales, selling memberships and personal training for him at 14. And that was always my passion. It was the health club industry. But I was 23 years old. My dad had sold his years prior. And so I'm working for other facilities, and something just clicked at that point in my life where I just knew that I needed to be an owner for me to really go out there and create the life and the impact and really just make the money that I also wanted to make to be able to support a family. I was engaged at that time, getting ready to get married. And so all those thoughts were happening of, well, dude, like how can I be a great provider? And working for somebody else in that industry just wasn't going to get me to where I felt I needed to be. But at 23 years old, college dropout, I wasn't smart with my finances. I had like $1,000 to my name. I couldn't get the $800,000 together to go open up my own facility. So I'm like, all right, dude, well, it's 2005, biggest boom in recorded history for at least our local real estate market here in Phoenix. Everybody that I knew in real estate was slaying it. So I was like, all right, dude, like I'll jump into real estate, sell 2, 3, 4 years, however long it takes to just raise the capital, at least to have a substantial down payment, to jump into that back in the health club space. So again, I thought that this was going to be a temporary thing, but I always say that very quickly, real estate became my obsession. While the health and fitness industry is still my passion, this quickly became my obsession, and hit the ground running, man. And when I get asked a lot about my first year, because I had a monster first year, 48 transactions, $280,000 out of the gate, as far as commissions earned. And I tell people, I worked hard and all of that stuff, but really the biggest thing was I was just mentally ready, right? Like I was sick and tired of where I was at in my life. I was prepared to go out there and do whatever it took. I was prepared for the hours, right? Workhorse. So it was like 4 a.m. to midnight, 7 days a week. Like I was just so ready to do something that changed my future, changed my life. So I was just mentally ready to go out there and just do whatever it took to dominate. And after the end of that first year, now this was 2005, so I'm kind of aging myself here. But we didn't have smartphones. Like scanners were just starting to be introduced, right? There was no DocuSigns, so it just took longer to do a deal. And luckily we're blessed with all these technologies that helps increase our capacity. But at that time I was averaging 4 to 5 deals every single month consistently, as an individual agent. But I was at a capacity, man. I was like, I wanted to double my business the next year, but I couldn't really even fathom, how do I even add one more? How do I go from closing 5 deals to 6 deals? There was no more hours left in the day. So at that point I knew, I needed to leverage some things out, hire my first assistant. And now luckily, because of my experience in my previous industry, I had experience building sales teams from scratch and so forth. So at that time also, teams weren't a big thing in this industry, and there was no YouTube, there was no podcast, there's no really, tools and training like we're so blessed with today to figure out that roadmap. But again, luckily I had those experiences. So I officially started my team in 2006 and just kept expanding and growing. And, here we are 15, 16 years later and still loving every day of it.
That's so awesome. And I was actually thinking about it. Bryce and I got into the business. We quit our jobs in the end of 2014. So it was like 6 years ago, literally to the day. And you were one of the first agents that we met because we joined our brokerage. You're part of the same brokerage. And we walk into the office and it was like, oh, cool, there's this great guy. But you're like the OG when it comes to just scaling with intent. And that's actually what I want to talk about today, because I think that going into 2021, if agents are wanting to continue to grow their teams or even just increase their outputs, right, as we're going on into the next year, systems are going to be a big part of that. And that is something that you're uniquely skilled at, just from your experience, but also from like implementing it in your own business for the last, decade plus. So that's where I'd like to spend some time chatting with you today. And I guess I'll just start by asking, what do systems and processes mean to you when it comes to real estate? Because I know that for a lot of agents listening to them, it feels sexy. It's a buzzy word right now, but it's still a little vague for a lot of agents who may have not really figured it out yet.
Yeah. No, I love this. I'm glad that we're going down this path. I get that it's not the most sexy thing to talk about. Yeah, right. A lot of realtors, want to talk about lead generation. All of that stuff's great, and all of that stuff is important. But hands down, the most important thing, when we're speaking from an operation standpoint, right, is to have a system and process-based business. It's my main obsession today, and has been for a lot of years now, is systems and processes. It wasn't always that way. I'm a typical salesperson, like a lot of other people are wired, where, in the beginning, like I hated spreadsheets. I hated the idea and the thought of taking time away from sales and away from relationships and, spending hours to build this stuff out. Building out and analyzing Excel spreadsheets and all of that stuff was pain initially. But it became very obvious early on in my career that of the importance and the necessity of it. Mm-hmm. The first thing that I want to kind of dispel is this myth that a lot of individual agents have, that, thinking that, I only need systems and processes in place, if I'm going to go out there and grow a team or expand into a brokerage and so forth. But again, that's just such a negative way to think about it and look at it. Individual agents need them just as much as a team leader or a brokerage owner or any other business, right? Because the whole thing about systems is what they really do to allow you to do. And let's just say, even from an individual agent standpoint, is to be able to replicate and the same actions, the same experience over and over and over. They help keep us on track. They ensure things don't get missed. Right. And they allow us to operate in the most effective and efficient manner possible. A common conversation with agents that I'll have is, they'll reach out to me, they're in a tough spot, and it'll be like, oh man, I crushed it 2 or 3 years ago, made $300,000, had the best year of my life. Then I got kind of content, got comfortable, got lazy, started just resting on that money. But now I'm in trouble. Well, that money's gone. And now I'm in a hard spot. And my first thing to them is always, well, it's simple. Just do exactly what you did to make that $300,000. But the answer always is, well, I don't know what I did. So they can't replicate and duplicate it. Right. So now this is where we need to get out of the realtor mindset and get into a business owner mindset, right? Like, we can't perceive ourselves. If you guys want to take this and create a highly successful real estate career, regardless if you're an individual agent, team leader, or brokerage owner, right? I mean, we all have different goals and how big we want to take this. That can be different for everybody. But in order to do that and create that a truly successful business, you've got to have the perception of viewing yourself as, I am a business owner, I am an entrepreneur that just happens to be in real estate. Real estate's just the product. And having a real estate license is just a necessary part of the process that we all must obtain. And look, dude, I'm not one of these that's like, be brilliant at business and don't focus on being a great realtor. No, like be brilliant at all the things that you can control. We need to be great realtors, when it comes to serving our clients and so forth. But to me, that's just the ante to be in the game, right? Like if you're not willing to commit to being a great realtor and putting your clients' needs before your commission checks and doing whatever you can to deliver a great experience and bend over backwards for them and so forth, like, you should just get the hell out of the industry anyway. Like go to the mall, go work at American Eagle, fold t-shirts, like just get the hell out, right? So that's just the ante. But I know so many great realtors, know the contract inside and out, know the contract law, can do a great job at protecting their clients from a legal stance and legal standpoint. I know so many great realtors though that are broke as a joke. Yeah, right. So being a great realtor doesn't mean that you're going to go out there and create success. Being a great entrepreneur, a great business owner is going to propel you into having great success in this business. You know, I always use the analogy of, let's just say you're a baker, like you bake the best muffins on the planet. You decide to go out there and open up a muffin shop. Well, your ability to be a great baker, it doesn't mean that you're going to have success running that muffin bakery shop, right? Like yeah, if you're going to open up a bakery, you need to have a great product for sure. But then on the flip side of that, like you need to know, okay, how do I get people into the store, right? Like how do I work this POS system? You know, how do we upsell different products? How do we, create the processes and systems where we can scale our staff and scale customers and get that line around the door and, make sure our profit margins are where we need to be and continue to advertise. And, all of those other things are going to massively determine and be kind of the key things that will determine your success in this industry. But look, I get it with systems, and when it comes to systems and processes and so forth, how it can be overwhelming and confusing for a lot of agents. They don't know where to start and so forth. So here's my recommendations with that. Number one, just understand the importance of them. If you want a duplicatable, replicable, measured business that is predictable, that you can continue to grow and scale, or maybe you're content. Maybe you're like, hey man, making $350,000 a year. It's just me or me and a part-time assistant. Life's good. Things are good. Okay, cool. If you want to still maintain that level of production year over year, like you need to know exactly what it takes to make that happen and have the right systems, processes in place to continue to replicate that and have everything tracked, measured, and so forth. Right? So you got to, number one, just understand the importance of them. And then number two, get started with them. The first thing that agents need in their business when it comes from a system standpoint is tracking your data. And if you analyze any business out there, any highly successful business, there is not one business owner out there that's highly successful, that doesn't know their numbers inside and out, and that hasn't created a system and a process-based business.
I'm so glad you're going this way, by the way. This is exactly where I was hoping this was going. Please continue. I just had to let you know that I'm very excited that we're not talking about 100%. Because they're so involved.
Yeah, and at any time, just because I know I can just get rambling, so anytime, just interrupt me. But the first place to start, you guys, is getting your tracking in place. Mm-hmm. Right. And this can be very simplistic. It doesn't need to be complicated. You can go into, have a Gmail account, go into Google Drive. Inside there, you'll see Google Sheets, which is like Google's Excel, version. It's essentially Excel in the cloud. Right. Well, then you might be like, well, I don't know Excel. Right. Well, I didn't either. Go to Udemy, udemy.com, get a class on Google Sheets. Like every class, you can learn anything in Udemy for $10, right? So it's going to cost you $10. Might take you 4 hours on a Sunday to learn it, learn the formulas, learn how to, build out these trackers. Boom, now you have the skill set to go out there and build it, right? Like if you can't get beyond, I don't know how to do this, you're probably not resourceful enough to succeed in this business or any business, so you should just go get a job. Yeah, right. I don't mean to be a jerk, but I'm just dealing in realities here.
Well, having that self-awareness as a professional is really important, right? Because just because you are great at real estate and just because you were able to pass the test, hang your license with a brokerage and start talking about real estate, maybe you're doing your first open house, that doesn't mean that you just deserve to have that 6-figure plus business. You still have to fortify it in order to maintain and exceed that level. And that's what this is allowing you to do. And one thing that I am really fascinated by is the ROI aspect of systems, because it's one thing to say oh yeah, you should template your emails. Yes, you should streamline your workflows. You should do these things. But let's talk about the actual dollars and cents that you can create from having systems and monitoring your metrics in that way. Instead of saying, okay, 2021, new year, new me, I'm going to go spend $6,000 a month on this new lead source. Instead, let's look at our metrics and let's see where we can increase our conversion just across the lead sources you already have. And those tiny little tweaks in tightening up your systems along the way that you maybe follow up or generate with leads in general, or speak to your database, those tiny tweaks can have an ROI effect of like tens and tens of thousands of dollars on your bottom line within 12 months. That is so powerful to me.
Yeah, it's, most in this industry, and not just this, I mean, the business owners of all industries, think it's these big shifts and changes that they need to make inside their business, to get them the results that they want. But it is very rarely the case. It's almost these small, tiny little tweaks that you just talked about. Understand that big or, tiny little hinges swing big ass doors.
Yeah, I love that.
And understanding that. So, if we go back to tracking, the main things that I'm going to set up my tracking for now, this is going to also be per lead source, right? So separate per lead source. My number of leads. If I'm also marketing, I'm going to need to know my cost per lead, with that. So then eventually I can figure out my cost per acquisition, which I'll get in here in a minute, but okay, number of leads. And then, how much am I spending on those leads, right? So number of leads, then I'm going to look at, okay, based on my follow-up protocols, right? The number of reach outs that I do. So for us with our follow-up protocols, we only track the main things that lead to the vast majority of our appointments set. So there are other follow-ups, like we have, automated drip emails, automated drip text messages, daily property alerts, mass emails going out, but for us, our appointments that we set, 99% of them are from personalized video text messages and primarily phone call conversation follow-ups, right? So those are the two that we're tracking. So from a reach out standpoint, we're tracking, okay, well, how many reach outs, right? And then also how many personalized video text messages sent. Then we're tracking how many conversations, then how many appointments set, how many appointments conducted, how many clients converted, and then to how many closings. And what that does, and we're tracking this on an annual basis, then a monthly basis, and we're tracking it every single day. And the cool thing is it only takes about 60 seconds to plug in this data every single day in your trackers, but and it might take 6 months, you guys, or 12 months to have some good solid data on this, right? But the power then becomes, this tells a story, connects the dots for you, right? How many leads so how many leads per closing, right? So like, let's just say with paid Facebook ads right now, we're at, okay, per 42 paid Facebook leads that come in, boom, we are at one closing, right? So we know how many leads, how many reach outs, right? How many conversations, appointments set, and so forth that lead to that. Now, here's what's cool about this is, let's just say you close 50 deals in the last 12 months. As we start breaking this down per lead source, well, then exactly what you need to scale each of these up to. So maybe you want to double your business. Okay, well, I need to double each of these numbers if you're able to with certain lead sources. Some you may not be able to, like if you're doing open houses, you may not be able to double the number of open houses that you can do, right? So, but it gives you that data then to know on an annual basis, monthly basis, and then on a daily basis, what needs to take place every single day. And this allows you to business plan properly and so forth. And it's so important, you guys, to make sure that if you're winning or losing every single day, right? Winners in this business, right? When I say winners, I'm talking about the elite top producers. If you look at the top 1% of realtors and team leaders on the planet, and myself is included in that category, not one of them doesn't know what it takes to win the day. Like each and every day, okay, how many leads we need to generate from these sources every day? How many reach outs? How many conversations? How many appointments need to be set? Right? Like we know each and every day if we're winning or losing. We're going to have days where we win. We're going to have days where we don't win. Maybe I get a call from my kid's school and my kid's got strep throat and I got to go pick them up and I got to take today off and, cut into my lead follow-up time. Okay, well, I can recalibrate those and spread those numbers over the next few days, right? To increase those, to make sure that I'm, not off and I'm still hitting those, right? So get your tracking systems in place and start tracking and making that a non-negotiable part of your daily, a daily habit. So, arguably that is the most important and just kind of most, foundational item that we need to have. Like when I have a new agent join my team, there are 5 things that we have them do before we start start having them go out there and generate leads. Because if they don't have these 5 foundational things in place, it's like, dude, they're not going to have success with lead generation. They're going to burn out, go broke, or probably a combination of both. And number 1 is getting their tracking system in place so they fully understand it, know how to use it, and it's in place. Number 2, we make sure that their CRM is fully set up. They know how to use it. They're trained on it, right? Our CRM is our most valuable asset for realtors in this business. Number three, we make sure that they have their listing and buyer presentations dialed in and in place, and they know them, they're rehearsing them, they're practicing them, they've got it good enough to at least go out and convert at a decent percentage. Because if you start thinking about it, okay, well, if I start lead generating and I'm not tracking my numbers, well, then I have no idea what's working, what's not working, and so forth. Right? If I don't have a CRM set up, I can't be successful with lead generation at a high level because I can't follow up effectively and keep myself on track. If I don't have my presentations dialed in, when I convert these leads to an appointment set, I'm not going to be able to convince them effectively at a high enough percentage to convince them to work with me as a client and get them to sign buyer broker agreements and listing agreements. Right? So like you're going to just waste a tremendous amount of time with your lead generation follow-up efforts, like if these foundational items are in place. Then number four, we make sure that their past client and sphere of influence process is dialed in. They understand it. And obviously we plug them into our system for that. And then lastly is if they're brand new, their market knowledge, right, and expertise. And we have some things that we have them go through for there. But once those 5 things are done, that then gives them the foundation now to start having success with lead generation inside their business. And when it comes to actual systems, you guys, I mean, here's the whole thing with systems. It's just getting what is in your head out of your head and into an actual system, right? So as an example, for those that are watching this on video, here's my team's operations manual, right? So everything that we do inside of our team, boom, is in here. Now we have this in, a manual format in a binder. We have it built out also in a Trello board in Google Drive files. And then we have everything in a video kind of training library in our online university. But everything that we do inside of our business is documented in there. So it eliminates the guesswork. It allows me to go hire a brand new agent fresh out of school. Right? I can plug them into world-class presentations and world-class, proven strategies and tactics, that have allowed us to sell over 6,000 homes as a team and become one of the top teams on the planet that we know work. Right? But breaking it down to such a simplistic, process, like as an example, with our listing manual, let's just say, okay, hey, they get a call, they're having a conversation with the seller lead. Okay, here's the exact questions to ask. So you can get the information that you need to prepare for the meeting here. So here's the questions they ask, here's why it's important to ask them and so forth, right? So they have those right in front of them. Here's the exact script that you say to set the appointment, right? Once you set the appointment, here's the exact email that you send, the exact text thank you email, and also confirmation for the appointment. And then bam, the morning of, here's the exact video text message that you send to confirm the appointment, right? And then we also know, because of all of our track data, like where our agents should be at, okay, hey, we strive for a 75% or greater appointment show ratio. So from appointment set to conduction ratio. Well, if I then know as a team leader or even as an individual agent, like I then know what part of my business needs to be improved based on that. I always get asked from agents of, who should I go hire as a coach? I'm like, that's a terrible question, right? Like your first thing that you need to identify is, where do you need the most help inside your business that would have the biggest impact? If you increase this one skill set in this one part of your business, boom, it would take your business to the next level. Then go find the best person to help you with that. It might be a coach, it might be a book, it might be a mentor, it might be just somebody that you can reach out to in your office to get free help from it, right? But then you can get very clear on identifying those different things. But in our listing manual, okay, so then, here's exactly what you do for the confirmation. Okay, then you're going to pull up to the product, or then we have it step by step. Okay, here's all the different things that you need in your listing presentation package to make sure it's built out. And here's how you do these things. Right? You pull up to the property 10 minutes early, you're going to have these things in your hand. You knock on the door 10 minutes early. When they open the door, make eye contact, reach out, shake their hand, say this, then do this, then do this, each step of the way. And as I said before, that allows us individually to then make sure that we replicate the same experience and get the same result over and over and over. So we don't have just off appointments or forget certain things. And so it keeps us on task. It also, over time, when we have these systems that we're following, allows us to develop, because eventually they become habit. They just become an automatic thing that now you don't have to think about, like it's so ingrained in you. So it allows you to develop the right habits. But then also, as you grow and expand, you are then able to quickly bring on admin and other agents and plug them into your systems. And what I recommend that you guys do, and this is just kind of this is how I create my systems. First thing that I do is I create a video around it. So most of this stuff is going to be like video screen share. I'm sorry, video screen recordings, right? So let's just say, so if I'm using my Mac, I'll use QuickTime Player. If I'm using a PC, I'll use Screencast-O-Matic. Have some earbud headphones on with a little microphone so it records the audio as well. So let's just say, as an example, I want to create a manual and a checklist process for ordering photos on one of my new listings, right? So, and I'm going to do a separate video kind of each part of the process so people can quickly reference it. I can quickly reference it and so forth, right? So, okay, I do the screen recording, okay, hey, I'm going to log into listerassister.com. I'm going to go here. I'm going to input this, click here, do this. Make sure you do this. Make sure you don't do this, right? Slowing down. I know I'm going fast because of time, but slowing down enough in that video where people can grasp it, they can understand it, and they can also re-reference it. When the video is done, I'm going to upload that to, let's just say, a private YouTube channel where it's unlisted. It's not a public channel. That way it's free. Or you can use something like Wistia or Vimeo. That's a paid kind of web hosting a video source for you to host your videos. And again, you keep all these private, so they're not out to the public. These are for internal purposes. Then once that video is created, I'm going to send it to a company called rev.com, rev.com. It's the best and quickest and also most accurate transcription service that I know. And it's like $1, $1.50 a minute for them to transcribe, right? It's so cheap. Within a 24-hour turnaround time, they'll have everything that you stated in that video, bam, in a manual format, in an editable way. So, and then I'll spend a couple minutes just reading through it and correcting, because I say a lot of ums and stuff, right? Just to make sure that it's cleaned up. And, but then that becomes the manual. And then based on the manual, right, I'll split out kind of the main items and create kind of a checklist template, right? But just repeating that for, again, anything that we do more than once in our business, you need to create a system and process for. Ordering business cards, right? I mean, every little thing, create a system and process for. So then eventually, if you start this now, it won't take long. Within several months, boom, you will have your own operations manual. That again, it eliminates the guesswork for you. Like, you just now have to just follow the process, follow the system. You don't have to think. And this is one thing that a lot of people don't think about with system when it comes to systems. But if any of you that are watching or listening to this are ever exhausted, right? Like at the end of the day, like if you're mentally, whatever. Well, the reality is, you guys, there's nothing that we do as real estate agents throughout our day-to-day lives where we should be exhausted. We're not fucking pouring concrete. Right? Like there's nothing hard about what we do, right? We are exhausted because of decision fatigue. The brain eats up and utilizes more calories than any other organ in the body. And decision fatigue is a true term coined by psychologists. Like we only have so much mental energy that we can exhaust throughout the day. And decision fatigue comes from when we have to make too many small decisions all throughout the day. Well, then bam, it just burns up those calories, that juice, if you will. So when you have systems, like I want to have my business in such a systemized place where I don't have to think. And I know that might sound weird, but it's like, look, I want to save that thinking energy so I can solve big problems. Like, hey, maybe we've got a contract or a client under contract and things are going sideways, and I need to really critically think and get creative about how to solve this and keep this deal together and keep progressing forward so I can accomplish my client's real estate goals. So I want to save all of that for bigger critical items. And don't just think about systems and processes for your business. This is another mistake that a lot of people make. Also carry this over to your personal life, right? Because it's all time, it's all energy. I had a friend of mine that was telling me, individual realtor, she's just a single mom, has 2 young kids at home. And she does very well. She makes that's like $250,000 a year, even with young kids in her situation. But she's just like, dude, I am just so done every day. By the end of the day, I'm so exhausted. And so I'm like, okay, walk me through your day. So she just started off with her morning routine. She's like, every morning we wake up and we have to play a game with my kids called Find My Shoes, because they always lose their shoes somewhere in the house. And I'm like, okay, cool. We need a system for that. Here, and here's my recommendation for that system. It's called a shoe rack. Right? Get a shoe rack, place it at whatever door that you and your kids enter. Right? Now you got to lead by example. So you take your shoes off there, right? Make your kids take their shoes off. Create something of pain if they don't follow the new, rule, the new system. Like, hey, you don't take your shoes off, put them on the rack. Like, boom, video game's gone for a week. Like, make it enough pain where they'll only forget once, right? But then now, boom, that's solved that 10 minutes of a morning mess right, through just one little thing. And then, but you just keep applying that to every portion of your business and personal life. Right. She reported back to me like 2 weeks after, and she's like, dude, I never would have ever thought the power that just a simple shoe rack would have brought to my life. But it's all those little things, man, that give us more energy, and also frees up so much time for us in our life and our business to not just focus on the more important things that we need to focus on business, but also to enjoy our lives outside of real estate as well.
Yeah. And that to me is the big thing when we're talking about this, because if we're talking about like you're holding up this awesome looking manual, like this is exciting to me. This is the kind of thing that lights me up and makes me want to hunker down for a weekend and just tinker. Right. And that's my kind of thing. That's just my personality. But there are some agents who are listening to this and they're like, bro, I'm just here to close like my 12 deals a year, do what I need to do, generate the amount of money that I need to do to just keep going, because that's just my game. And that's totally fine. If you're getting into real estate and you have a really clear idea on what you want that to look like for your lifestyle, that's great. And I think that, side note a little bit, you can make limitless money in this industry, and it's really exciting. The only ceiling that we have is like really what we place on ourselves. However, like $150,000 is a ton of money for somebody. $200,000, that's a lot of money. And if you want to be the agent and that's your goal and that's what you want to generate, that's awesome. But think about all of the other stresses that is going to inevitably bring on, because to close that many people, you need like 10x the amount of people that you're actually going to manage in leads. That is going to create so much time and so much energy and so much overwhelm if you are not streamlining the processes in your business on how to actually get them from A to Z and eventually cash that check. And so it's really beyond just streamlining the business in order to become more ROI positive, but like imagine actually being able to attain the freedom and flexibility that we all get into the business for. We're all getting into here for a specific lifestyle that we imagine, right? Being our own boss, calling the shots, having the ability to run and pick up your kid if they have strep throat at school and you need to pick them up, right? Like being able to take that 2-week vacation if that's what you want to do. But you can't do that if you're flying by the seat of your pants in every part of your business and life. And I do think that those habits cross over quite a bit, because if you're really tight in one area of your life, it's going to compound and bleed over, which is something that's really interesting to me. That's probably where your passion for fitness and health comes in, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's all the same process, right? And look, I mean, there's so many commonalities, with fitness in real estate, as an example. It's like I have a friend right now that I'm helping him lose 100 pounds. Now, luckily, he's a highly successful realtor, so I can use these analogies with him, but I'm like, look, dude, losing weight is just like growing a real estate business, right? Meaning for these first 3, probably more like 6 months, right? You're going to be doing a lot of work up front. You're going to be going through a lot of pain. You're going to be making a lot of sacrifices. But then at that same time, you're going to be looking in the mirror every single day and you're like, what the hell? I'm not seeing any fruits of my labor. Right? Well, then usually somewhere between that 3 and 6 month mark, if you're doing all of those right things, right? Boom, one day you're going to look in the mirror and be like, oh, damn, I'm starting to see some good changes now. Just like in a real estate business, right? Like it takes, this is one of the reasons why our dropout rate is so high in this industry. I mean, outside of uncommitted people just not wanting to put in the work, but man, it's 3 to 6 months when you're first licensed, or if you're in a lull, not closing any deals, you're starting over, of doing that daily, consistent, hard ass work, making those sacrifices, going through rejection and staying focused and having the faith that, okay, if I keep doing this in 3 to 6 months, bam, it's going to start to pay off. But yeah, there's a lot of similarities there. I love what you said is, there's 2 things I pay attention to, not just ROI is important, but I also look at ROT, return on my time. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've had many years through my real estate journey where I'm like, dude, look, the money's good. Not that I don't want to make more money, but it was like, hey, the money's good. Like I'm making more than I've, made. Like I'm really good here. But man, I have no life outside of this business. And now I want to figure out how to make the same amount of money, but just instead of working 80 hours a week, figure out how to do it working 50 or 60. And the only way that's going to happen is through having systems in your business. You know, like you mentioned before, even the agent that's, 12 deals a year is winning and successful, and that's great. But I can guarantee you, if anybody doesn't have systems in their business, and especially isn't tracking their business, I guarantee that 50% or more of their efforts, their time, their energy that they're spending on activities is wasted time. Right? So why not figure out how to do those 12 deals in less time, so then you can spend more time enjoying your life outside of real estate?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for us, that was a big thing for us this year too. And I'm so glad that things have like just kind of worked out the way they have over time. And you look back at those years of pain and tinkering and really putting in that hard work up front, because this year, 2020, right, the bag of tricks that it's been, I've been able to, follow our principles just in terms of like trying to stay safe, trying to be cognizant of current events and things. But also we had a baby this year, and I had a 3.5-month maternity leave. And I always said that I was going to do that, but I didn't know if I really knew that I could actually make it happen. And then here it is, Bryce and I got to actually really enjoy becoming parents for the first time. And we've had the best year we've ever done in real estate. I've made more money this year in my entire life. And we've started a college fund for my son. We've been able to max out our IRAs. Like, that stuff really matters. And not just on the dollar and cents of it, but to be able to actually like set out to do something that you say you're going to do, and then put your money where your mouth is, put the hard work in, and be able to achieve those results. And that is a huge win in itself. And I think that is something that, like, when you bring clarity and you bring that context to it, I don't know why any agent wouldn't want to spend their time doing these things.
Yep. And the last thing that I'll say is, look, you guys, you have to be intentional with this, and it does take time. So what I recommend is, again, build these out as you're doing them. So, okay, hey, I just got the phone. I just set a buyer appointment. Okay, well, while it's fresh, okay, what were the questions that you asked? What's the script that you used to set the buyer appointment? Then as you're preparing your buyer presentation, getting ready for that buyer appointment, document the steps that you're doing as you are doing it, right? So you're building these things as you are doing it. Then in addition to that, and this is what I do, and I've done this for years, I call it my daily power hour, where I take an hour every single day, and I block off the hour. It'll either be like super early in the morning, late at night, a time where there's no disruptions, no interruptions, clients aren't reaching out, there's not fires to put out, where I can be fully focused on this. And during that daily power hour is just me working on my systems. Because here's the thing, once you have your systems in place, they're always going to be needing to be updated and improved and so forth. But I've just followed that for years and years and years. So then it's not this overwhelming thing where I need to take 2 weeks off to put these in place. I'm just chipping at it each and every day, a little bit each and every day. Now, maybe you're like, I don't have an hour a day, Josh. Okay, cool. 20 minutes. It's like with reading. I read 10 pages every day. Right? That's it. 10 pages every day of a book. It takes me about 20 minutes to read those 10 pages. Well, about every 20 days, I finish a book, right? Even though it's only 10 pages a day. And it's just something I can quickly do, but I'm gaining that knowledge. Those things compound and add up over time. So, even if you only have 15, 20 minutes a day, that's okay. Just work with what you have and just start chipping away at it. Eventually it will be done.
Yeah, I love that. And I really like that you mentioned the fact that it's never done. Like, you never reach a point, because your business will change and evolve just as your client base will change and evolve, and the needs change and evolve.
But look at COVID. Just we're all in the thick of this right now. I know people might be watching this years down the road, but a lot of our processes changed during COVID. Switching from in-person presentations to doing a lot of Zoom listing buyer presentations, to doing FaceTime showings, to even adding new processes like our open houses with having COVID-19 kits with masks. Just those little things. Right? With technology, it's always new things because, again, we're just taking out of our heads and putting it into a process and a system. Well, your business, how you do your business, whether it's through outside forces, the way the consumer wants business to be done is changing, right? Or you're adapting new technologies, or you figure out better ways of doing things. There's always little tweaks that are taking place and happening. So I look at it like it's like painting the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, right? Like they start on one end, takes like a whole year to paint the whole thing. By the time they get to the other end, the other side's already starting to chip, so they have to restore it all. It's just a constant progression, but you just do it in bite-sized chunks. How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Right? So it doesn't need to be some huge, overwhelming, crazy overhaul that needs to disrupt your business. Just work at it a little bit each day.
Love it. Well, I want to take a moment to acknowledge you because you are a successful agent by any measure. And you really give so much to the community and to the industry. Every time we talk, you are so forthcoming with value. You don't hold anything back. And that's something that I really admire in you. So thank you so much for just really opening the kimono and sharing all the different things that you have during this time. Where can agents find you if they want to connect further?
Yeah, 100%. And first of all, and thank you for the kind words. And it's a huge honor to be here with all of you. Yeah, I mean, the best place, you guys, and then just want to give you a couple of different free places to go to continue on your kind of knowledge and information, acquiring skills and knowledge and so forth that keep helping you accelerate your real estate business. Because look, I'm a real estate agent just like you guys, and we get sold 24/7 in this industry, and it gets annoying as hell. So, I've got several different free resources out there just to help you guys continue to create success in your journey. So the first thing is my own podcast, which I've been doing now for 5 years. Sure, 5 years. I think we have 14 or 1,500 interviews and podcast releases, over time that are out there now, all 100% free, interviewing, top producers in the industry, top also entrepreneurs. Plus I'm giving a lot of just tips and things that we do in our business on that channel. So that's at gsdmode.com, or you can go to YouTube and just look at either Joshua Smith or type in GSD mode. That will pull up there as well. And then the last thing is I just released a new book. If you guys want to go check this out, again, 100% free, nothing being sold. There's no upsells. It's all 100% free. It's a digital copy of this book. Dominate Your Real Estate Business Top Tips from a Top Producer. There's 42 chapters. Each chapter is a different tip and strategy, proven a strategy that I've implemented in my business and used over the years to grow my business into one of the top, realtors and team leaders on the planet. Allows us to consistently sell over 150 million a year over year in our set of real estate business. There's no fluff in there. There's not filled a lot of stories. Each one just gets to the tips, the strategies. That way you can learn and plug those in your business. And it'll be emailed to your email box within seconds. And that's at joshuasmithfreebook.com if you want to snag a copy of that as well.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be checking that out. I am doing the 75 hard next week. And one of the things is you have to read 10 pages of a book. So I've got my book figured out.
Yep. That's awesome. No, you're going to love the program, dude. It's been really cool. I'm 28 days into it. Today's day 28 for me. You gotta be very intentional with your planning, because it's a little like missing the daily progress pick or not planning out where you can intake the gallon of water a day. Right. But what's crazy about it is, I've done lots of transformation, health and fitness, contests. I mean, I used to compete in bodybuilding and so forth. One thing that I've never done that this part of this forces you to do is the daily progress picks. Yeah. Because you can jump on the scale and so forth, and all that's good and cool. But, we see ourselves every day in the mirror, right? So we don't notice the changes. But even in the 28 days that I've been doing this, like looking at the day 1 pick to day 28, I mean, it is just mind blowing looking through the daily pick, the changes. It's awesome. You're going to love it. And I highly recommend any listeners to jump into 75 Hard as well. It's a 100% free, program that, this guy named Andy put out there. It's a mental challenge, but it's badass. It's game changing.
Awesome. Such a good way to start 2021, right? All the right foot. Cool. Well, thank you again so much, Josh, for joining us today. Guys, if you are listening to this, for sure, check out all of these resources that Josh has to extend to you. So much value given on every front. Thanks again for the time. And until next time, looking forward to it.
All right. Peace.